What do you think he might be pushed to accept as a minimally acceptable military victory? Any sense of that?
I've got to tell you, I'm beyond the point of being able to claim that I really understand Putin's thought process at this point, except to say that I'm pretty confident that he will not be able to accept emotionally and mentally a straightforward defeat by the Russian military or the Ukrainian military without trying to escalate more, which I think he's doing right now.
And so what do you hope that we continue to do in the world outside Ukraine and Russia?
I hope that we continue to flow weapons and supplies to the Ukrainians as fast as they need them. And I hope that we continue to provide them with all of the support short of actually deploying, combat forces or aircraft to fight with them and give them what they need. I hope that we continue to unite the world against Putin for this outrageous, unprovoked act of aggression, and that we make it very clear to Putin that his choices are going to be accepting this defeat and making the best he can of it, or really beginning to stare down the barrel of the collapse of his regime. All of that's very tricky, because when you start putting the collapse of the regime on the table, right now we have a wounded, angry bear, and animals like that are very unpredictable and still can do a lot of damage. And so this is something to be managed very carefully and thoughtfully. But I think helping the Ukrainians fight off this attack, if worse comes to worst in Ukraine, or one of the worst, helping them prepare for and conduct an insurgency against Russia are important. And then just continuing to tighten the vice on Putin and make it clear we will squeeze Russia to death if he does not back off. But we will not squeeze it to death if he does back off. I mean, that's the off ramp here is, if you stop this, then we can return to some kind of.
And you think that is a reasonable off ramp? And is anyone that you regard as credible suggesting any other alternative to that?
In terms of off ramps, no. And my problem with that off-ramp is it requires Putin to make a psychological shift that I think is going to be almost impossible for him, of actually accepting that he's been defeated here. And that's right now I'm focused on, what can we do to make it clear to him that he's not going to win this without ourselves escalating in a way that will change this in a bad way. And I think that's the balance that everybody's trying to strike. In terms of where Putin will go, looking for off-ramps or other things at that point, I'm nervous about a variety of ways that can go. One of the things that Putin could do is he could really try to turn this more into a Russia-NATO conflict, which would likely rally his people more enthusiastically than just a war against Ukraine. And I don't think that he's in a position to attack NATO militarily right now, given the problems that he has. But I think we should expect to see a possible change in Kremlin rhetoric and posture to try to make this more of a war or a preparation to defend against NATO and rally. And I think here again, we need to not repeat the mistake that we made that contributed to this, didn't cause this. Putin, we need to blame the enemy for what the enemy did, which is Putin's decision to invade. Biden administration is not to blame for Putin's decision. We need to be very clear about that. And that would be true if Trump were in office, or Bush, or anybody else. At the end of the day, Putin made this decision and he's to blame. But the miscalculation that the Biden administration made about its ability to deter him, we need to not repeat that mistake when it comes to deterring him from testing NATO. I think we need to recognize that he is engaged in a gunfight, and we need to be prepared to bring a gun to a gunfight. So the U.S. has started to mobilize forces to defend its Eastern NATO members. We need to keep doing that. There will be more and more discussion about how escalatory that might be and how that might trip Putin into further activity. I don't think that's right. I think what we need to make clear to Putin is that if he starts something with NATO, we will finish it quickly, and there is nothing there for him, and not allow him to imagine that there is any even initial military success he could achieve against NATO, because we just need to foreclose that option. Preventing this from becoming a Russia-NATO war is a very big priority right now, as well as helping Ukrainians defeat the Russians in Ukraine.